We'll start with the Irish Independent this morning. Erratic Mourinho feeling the Miami heat. Fears growing that United season could be undermined before it has even started. It is the story as old as time, Andy, where it's the third season of Jose Mourinho at a football club, and it is the season where things begin to crumble. It's so inevitable that this is going to end in tears.
Yeah, well, the only thing is that the first 2 years haven't gone that great, which is usually what happens in any kind of I don't know, throws the toys out the pram and gets upset. But it's I don't know how many papers I have in front of me here, but nearly everyone carries a story about Mourinho and Mourinho meltdown. We'll go through in a minute, but nearly it's across the papers, and it's worrying. I'm a United fan, but I don't know. It's kind of, why are these stories even coming out? Why are we even hearing about it? And well, I guess it's him who's making the public knowledge, but. Yeah, I don't know. It's like he's looking to. He's obviously trying to give himself an out. Yeah. Because he knows he probably can't compete with Man City, with Tottenham, and probably now with Liverpool as well.
Well, that's the thing. They're
probably down maybe fourth or fifth best. So he's probably trying to just manage expectations, but in all doing that, it's affecting the players. It seems. It's pre-season. They could go out and blow away the first couple of teams, and then it's all forgotten about. But at this moment, the signs don't look good. What
did you make of the Anthony Martial thing last week, where Jose Mourinho wasn't happy about Martial going to see the birth of his second child?
I don't know what's going on with Martial. You look at him, and he's one of the most talented young players in the world. Has to be. And this Mourinho just doesn't give him the light of day. He was our best player until Sanchez was signed. And then when Sanchez came in, it kind of got pushed out again. And I don't know, you'd question the management skills of Mourinho.
That's it, or to be able to mould a player.
Yeah, and when you see, obviously Luke Shaw is very famous, the case of Luke Shaw, other players who he singled out throughout the season. I don't know why, is he trying to evoke some reaction? It obviously is, but a positive reaction. Is this the way to do it? I don't know if this is the best way to do it. But it all seems to be centered around him and his ego and how it reflects on him. And I don't know. I think he's deflecting from his own downs, his failings and he's trying to put it onto the players, and it doesn't. I don't know.
Yeah, I wonder, do questions have to be asked to the board as well, though? They're giving this man the light of day. Ultimately, if you're being pushed around, well, it doesn't seem...
Well, when he was appointed manager, obviously, he had a great track record.
Yeah.
And you can't follow him in that, but the personality, he was signed for his personality and his character. You had these big players in management at the time, and they needed somebody big, they needed a big name, and he fitted the bill. And he always wanted the United job anyway. He was flirting with it before David Moyes got it. He kind of was the one who would have got it. But I don't know. A lot of people are tipping him to be sacked soon. And I think had this been the end of last season, he might have gotten sacked. But I don't know. It's worrying for the club.
It looks like it's a miracle if he makes it to Christmas, yeah. I think. Just one other story in the back of the Irish Independent this morning. FAI decided to go solo with emergency safety net funds. So this is a story we were chatting a good bit about on the show last week. So the FAI have opted to create a League of Ireland emergency €300,000 emergency fund for players whose contracts aren't honoured by the club. So of course last Wednesday we had this statement announced by the FAI that there would be a 300 grand amount put into an escrow account, and half of that would be funded by the PFAI and half of that would be funded by the FAI. Stephen McGuinness, of course, was on OTBAM last week, and he said when he saw the statement from the FAI, that was the first he'd heard of it. But it seems Fran Gavin and co have done a U-turn on all of this, and that they will be creating an account entirely comprised of FAI funds. So just to kind of go into a little bit more detail on this. So the FAI claimed they chose to go solo after a deadline for the PFAI to respond had passed. So for them to respond to this FAI proposal and inform the clubs of the conditions attached to accessing the fund. And now these are the terms for accessing the fund. An immediate 6-point deduction will apply should a club be unable to pay their players on time and the fund is activated. And they will also have a transfer embargo imposed. And also should that club not repay the monies by the end of the season, they will automatically be relegated with a registration ban applying for their first season in the First Division. So there is hampering circumstances attached to trying to tap into that fund, but at least the players get played, or the players get paid, I should say. So it is better news to the situation we were in last week for sure. And then good news as well from a Galway perspective. The other story in the back of the Irish Independent: Tribe set for canning boost, but bad news then. McInerney a doubt. They are saying Gerard McInerney will be fit for an All-Ireland final should they make it, but it looks like he's going to miss out on this weekend if those reports are to be believed. Now, the front page of Sports Tuesday on the Irish Times this morning is Jim McGuinness's column, Kingdom praying for a Galway win. And Dublin Roscommon game relegated into TV schedules. So that is the news yesterday that Dublin Roscommon is going to be put on RT News now, with the other two games, the Hurling and the other Super 8s game, to be put on the main RT channels. The front page of the Irish Examiner sports section then this morning is circling the wagons, why John Kiley is right to put a lid on the hype. So this is interesting stuff, Andy. It's just to kind of read out some of Michael Moynihan's piece, which is the lead here in the Examiner. It was one of the stranger introductions to a post-game press conference. After their stirring win over Cork last Sunday, Limerick manager John Kiley began his dealings with the media with a threat to withdraw his team from dealings with the press in the event of a reporter contacting individual players. Don't roll your eyes, by the way. Moynihan says this isn't a plea for the sensitivities of the working press. It's not really a moaning piece from a journalist saying that the players should be given access. In fact, Moynihan agrees with John Kiley banning players from media duties or being contacted individually, which I guess from the base that Limerick have come from and some of the things they've seen in the past, you can't really blame John Kiley. You can kind of see where he's coming from to a certain extent.
Yeah, I know, and like, does it to speaking to the press of the team, it doesn't really. They don't need to promote it. And it's as a sports person, when you train and you're in a high pressure situation like they are now, there will be pressure on them, like coming into the final, and every little decision they make has to only benefit their performance, and so to take 20 minutes on a phone call or to drive and meet somebody, take an hour or two out of your day, it's just time and energy that you don't need to be wasting when you can be using that to prepare for the final.
Yeah,
I know there's 3 weeks in it, and 20 minutes out of your day is not much, but it does add up. It does add up, and if you do one with somebody else, then you're going to have to you can't just pick and choose as well. It's either a complete ban or a complete allowance of media work. So I know you were announcing Shane Down yesterday morning, so this media ban must have come into effect pretty recently.
We may have individually contacted Shane Dowling. We may
so you're the reason. You're the reason.
But listen, from
all the other journals have you to thank.
Yeah. Some of the things that are detailed in that Moynihan's article there, just like opening petrol stations and stuff like that, the week of the All-Ireland final in 2007, like, ordinarily you might be a bit annoyed with this, but ultimately this isn't an all-out media ban. It's a ban from individual journalists contacting the players. Yeah,
well, the thing is, with stuff like that, little obligations like that, there's a few quid in it for the players, and sure, they might want that, but if they go ahead and win the match in 3 weeks' time, those things will be there for the whole team, so that's kind of what they kind of have to invest in themselves and say, like, okay, just say no tonight. It might be, whatever, $2,000 opening, say, appearance here or there, or opening a shop or something like that, media stuff. And that's a nice few quid, for little, no effort. But you got to say no. Like, if we win the match and try and win the match, because something like that it wouldn't end up costing you. But in the long run, when you balance it out, you have to think, no, save myself. If we win it, then these things will be there.
Because, I do think as well, there's also a common misconception that the reason why this happens is because they might say something in the press that is outrageous, that might give the other team a leg up. But that's not the case, really. It's as you say, it's more the kind of thinking about doing the interview and the minutes out of your day. And I guess some players get nervous and there's a bit of consternation about what's going to be printed or
exactly.
On the radio.
Anxiety, you're thinking like, I shouldn't have said that, and you're worried, and it's all a distraction. Yeah, taking you away from the game, from the training.
Obviously there will be the mandatory kind of commitments before the All-Ireland final, much like I'm sure you would have seen it all the time yourself. It's like the mandatory part is like it's got heightened importance. It's far more important than you would have seen at any point in GEA. It's maybe getting more important, the press conferences before GEA matches, but obviously it's nothing on the level of boxing. And like I wonder, like, would you have ever felt like that sort of consternation as well, like leading up to a fight? It's like, oh God, I got to deal with this press conference now beforehand.
Every time, every time. It's just like a drain on your energies, and just like it's a real like arduous. It's kind of a bane. Like you're like, oh no, like, you know, you're just dragging yourself through it, and then you just build up a stockpile of, because you're answering the same questions every time, the exact same questions with every interview, and you have a stockpile of answers that you just kind of just rattle off, and it's like, we that, I suppose, people, we want insight, we want to know what they're going through, you want them to open up. But in the case of Limerick, this is such a big, it's a big event, like, and I don't want to put more pressure on it, because it is, but it is a big event for the city and for the county of Limerick, and just to hold yourself away for 3 weeks and say nothing, do what you have to do, and then win the thing. You know what I mean? And that's, you can talk about it. People will be talking about it for the rest of, the next 10, 15, 20 years, maybe 50 years. But we'll see. Just hold yourself away and do the job in 3 weeks' time.
Yeah, well, that's certainly the way they've gone down anyway. The back page of the Times Ireland edition this morning goes with that Galway story as well. Galway, or McInerney rather, would be fit for the final. So that is that Gerard McInerney story, saying that if they did win the replay this Sunday, he should be back for the All-Ireland final in just under 3 weeks' time now. You've also got Pro 14 finals set for Celtic Park, and Stars returning against rules, which is an interesting one actually here. It's something that I wouldn't have even thought of, that the Premier League Stars returning to club duty early after the World Cup are breaching their own contracts amid concerns over player welfare and potential for injury. And you'll never guess what football club is at the centre of this. It is Jose Mourinho and Manchester United, the likes of Marcus Rashford, Phil Jones, and then for Chelsea, Ruben Loftus-Cheek, back in training just 2 weeks after returning from the World Cup.
Yeah, neither of them had major roles in the World Cup. Like, where Jones probably would have played the most out of them. But yeah, I don't know. It's
like, I guess it's that idea of being inside in the centre of a camp for the majority of a summer.
Well, the three players mentioned, they all need to impress. You know, they all need to kind of make a mark, and so they were trying to probably get one step ahead and show their commitment.
Probably of their own volition as much as Jose Mourinho asking them back. The final newspaper for me this morning is the Racing Post. He's back, says the front of the newspaper. Easy game for Ruby at Galway. A rather aptly named horse for Ruby to get his comeback win on. Easy game yesterday, the winner at the first in Ballybrit. And Jose 6-5. Not to last season. They're pretty good odds. I like my chance of putting a fiver in Jose not to last the season. The next Premier League manager to leave post, best prices. So Jose Mourinho is 7-1. Carlos Puel is 8-1, as is Neil Warnock and Javi Gracia. So Jose Mourinho favourite to be the next manager.
Neil Warnock's back in the Prem. Neil Warnock's back in the Premiership.
Yes, he is. Yeah, with Cardiff. It's going to be great. It's going to be a fun season. Just looking for the gleeful smile on Neil Warnock when he is the last manager that Jose Mourinho faces before he gets the sack.
Oh my God.
Are you a fan?
No, I can't say I'm a fan, no. I can't say I'm a fan. But he's a colourful character, isn't he?
Yeah, he certainly is.
A character.
Just up on screen at the moment, we've got the Irish News. Bonner sent us huge chance to seize All-Ireland final slot. So that is the preview for Ballybofey on Sunday. I'm not sure if Donegal or Tyrone are thinking about an All-Ireland final at this point, to be honest, because it's a huge game for them on Sunday. The winner basically gets knocked out, or the winner gets through to the All-Ireland semi-final, and the losers' championship is done. It's as simple as that. If they win, Donegal will be up against, more than likely, Galway. Whoever wins basically in Salt Hill on Sunday, if Donegal wins. So I guess they would be on the easier side of the draw. They will have obviously avoided Dublin. They will have avoided Kerry if they get through. There's also that Tyson Fury story there on the front of the Irish News. Tyson Fury saying that the Deontay Wilder fight is agreed.
Yeah, apparently Frank Warren was on TalkSport yesterday morning, and he confirmed it there that they're in talks with Wilder. So we'll maybe get into it a little bit later, but the heavyweight division is really interesting at the moment, and it's real, there's a lot of, it's kind of stacked, and there's some real players in there, and Dillian White being one of them. That it's kind of, as much as the fighting is exciting, some of the political stuff outside of it, and the management stuff outside of it, and the promotional stuff is just as entertaining. And of course we had that protracted long back and forth kind of played out in the media between Eddie Hearn and Shelley Finkel about the Wilder and Anthony Joshua kind of thing. Was it going to happen? Was there a 50 million offer to Joshua from Wilder? It was reputed that it was on the table, then it wasn't on the table, and both sides were going back. And then ultimately the fight didn't happen. Josh was due to fight Povetkin, which is a tough fight, and now Fury says that he's in negotiations to fight Wilder. So it's interesting, you know. It's a lot like, if Fury's back to his best, he could beat, and I'd favour him to beat Wilder.
Would you?
But it kind of puts added pressure on his fight now with Pianetta, because no one was kind of putting pressure on Tyson Fury before this. Like, he had his comeback fight and it wasn't much of a fight, and he's promised to take this next one serious, and like there was no, like, he could have probably took 3 or 4 fights to box himself back into contention, sharpness and fitness. But if he's willing to step in with Wilder before the end of the year, then he's shown great belief in himself, and he's kind of, you know, he's kind of taking a lead on, he's kind of stealing the thunder from Joshua as well. So there's all that in play as well. So yeah, it's interesting seeing.
It feels like we're in kind of episode 2 or 3 of a very good TV series, and we're hurtling towards the middle of the season when things are about to hot up. There's just a couple of more intermediate fights that are required here and there, and that this time next year we could be looking around and saying we're borderline on a golden age of heavyweight excitement. Maybe not.
I think we're there. We're right on it right now. When you look, obviously Anthony Joshua, Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury, Dillian White, and then you look, Delbo Chisora came back, Derek Chisora, and had a great win, beat Carlos Takam, who pushed Joshua, you know, and they had a great fight and he knocked him out. And then you have Tony Bellew, who's an outside player, you know, who's still there and still has to be reckoned with, beat David Haye twice. And then you have Alexander Usyk, who's the unified cruiserweight champion. He's talking about moving up to heavyweight, and there's a potential that him and Bellew will fight before the end of the year. And then the winner of that will have to be considered a serious challenger to any of the champions. So you got Jared Miller in America. There's some great fighters out there, and some great fights to be made in the heavyweight division. You got Daniel Dubois coming up. It's a stacked division, yeah. Yeah,
it's going to be good, and we will have Dillian White on the show a little bit later on. He'll be joining us in and around 9 o'clock. Any questions for him, by the way, you can tweet us at Off The Ball. You can comment on the stream if you're watching on YouTube or on Facebook. Andy, what's going on in the rest of the papers?
Well, like we said, across the board, it's dominated by Mourinho and his apparent meltdown. Mourinho meltdown. This is on, what have we got here? The Daily Telegraph. Mourinho meltdown. United players now alarmed by manager's erratic behaviour and fear of becoming the next target. And it's across the board.
It must be weird for the players.
Yeah, the sport, the Sun, sport, man down, stars are worried about grumpy Jose. It's all, and like, you look around, the other teams, man up, Spain Legend Villa, Pep City are ready for Champions League glory. They're all positive.
Yeah. And
so it can only be even more alarming for the United players and United fans, me included. United on the edge. This is the Daily Star. Concern among players of Mourinho. So it's all across the board. You know, ticket frenzy in Clare. They're looking for tickets for Semple Stadium. It's going to be a 36,300 sellout.
Yeah, it's going to be. I've never actually seen that for sort of a replay like that. Queues down the street. We rarely see it anymore, anyway. In life,
just after the first match, everybody wants to be there, don't they? Easy night for Ruby. He's back to winning ways. It's great to see.
Yeah, we'll get Johnny Ward's take on that a little bit later on. Just straight back from an injury. It's like it must take some sort of level of confidence, borderline insanity to get back up on the horse and say, I'm going to be okay here, because you need to have that mentality of saying...
Is he come back from a leg break?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like the one that he aggravated, like he's injured it twice. He came back from the serious injury at Cheltenham, or at Thurles, then rode at Cheltenham a week later and did it on day 2 of Cheltenham. And he's been out for since Cheltenham up until this week. So to actually put yourself into the mindset to say, I'm going to be okay. To get up on horse is one thing, but to say I'm going to be okay to ride at the best I can and at the full throttle.
You'd have to ask yourself, I'm sure someone should. I'm not like get into it with him, but why? Why would like a leg break? It's not something like, it's something that really disables you in life. You know what I mean? Like that, and then you want to get back up on the horse and run. Like, it's dangerous enough, and then consider you broke your leg twice. Like, Fair play to him. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's good to have him back, though. There's plenty more. It's another 6 days of racing at Galway on the flat and over hurdles. So I think it's like Jose pretty much everywhere in the rest of the tabloids.
Yeah, exactly. Across the board. This is the mirror spot. What a United State. Mourinho's moods have put his players on the edge with 10 days left of the Prem kick-off. 10 days left.
But we were just saying this before we came on air. Like, I mean, it doesn't feel like there was any off-season. Like you were saying that it's time to take 1 month off from your Sky Sports subscription.
Yeah,
but
I'm sick of paying the €90 a month, so I was going to cancel my Sky, but then I realised, I better keep it now for this.
Too late.
Yeah. So they've got me again.
What are your general hopes ahead of United season? Like, if they manage to...
They have to challenge this is third season involved. Like, look at the squad. Like, you have to look at the squad, like, and he can moan all he wants. Maybe the defence is not up to par, but across everywhere else, they're in attack there, and they should try and focus on that. But that's not Mourinho's game. He's not an attacking manager. But they have to challenge. They have to challenge this year. At least I don't know if they'll be in contention because City might run away with it again. But they have to be up there at least.
Can they possibly do it with him in charge, though? Doesn't seem like it. It doesn't seem like it's going to.
It has to be a big shift in the dynamic or the mood, but it doesn't seem to be. It seems to be gone in the negative at the moment.
Yeah, very much so. I think the Herald this morning are going with the Dubs ahead of their dead rubber this weekend.
Yeah, James B. Cole, Gavin can afford to stick a twist in Roscommon for Roscommon. So it's just basically, does he play the same team or does he mix it up? There's not much in that. And also the FAI created emergency fee for €100,000 fund for players, which is probably a good thing.
Yeah, no,
it's probably a really good thing. Yeah.
In fairness, it was a bit of a stark warning last week when the PFAI kind of woke up and turned on their email inboxes, and it turned out they had to pay 150 grand from their own players' wages to fund their own players' wages. So that would have been a rather grim scenario. But it seems that that's turned around.